This week, we meet Thom Elliot, who co-founded the wonderful restaurant brand Pizza Pilgrims with his brother James. He shares his journey from post-university traditional jobs to establishing a successful pizza chain with his brother, starting with an actual fact-finding journey across Italy in a Piaggio van. He discusses the importance of resilience, creativity and teamwork in entrepreneurship, as well as their unique experiences for creating their restaurants. Thom finally shares their commitment to quality and their recent achievement of B Corp status and their passion for living their brand values. The conversation concludes with valuable advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. I hope you enjoy. Hello, Thom. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure.
Yeah, well, you maybe see what you say in 50 minutes, but yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy it.
I'm slightly intimidated because one of my first bosses was called Steve Henry and he was tough. So
Not me.
I'm kind of having a bit of a like, really?
I wondered why you were so polite to me. That's strange.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen much.
Definitely reverting to my just out of uni self.
Okay. Well, that was that in advertising world, wasn't it? I mean, we'll come on to this, but yeah.
It was, it was.
There was always a very famous Steve Henry. I'm afraid I've not quite hit those heady heights.
That's him. That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. But I'm a nice one. I'm the nice Steve Henry that you've met at last.
I'm sure he was nice. I was just slightly intimidated by him.
I love it. There's only about 3 people who've ever spoken to me about that guy, but I always used to follow him and like think, one day.
He made some of the greatest adverts of all time. He made probably my favourite advert of all time, which is the Blackcurrant Tango. Do you remember that advert? Oh, absolute perfection. I mean, they don't make them like that anymore.
Exactly. Well, I'm just going to let you downhill from now, I'm afraid. Let's talk about you, not me, because I'm not here. I'm here to facilitate your story, Thom. So look, we've got a bit of a tradition, which we've said, which is it's always good for our listeners to understand how you've got to the heady heights of co-founder of Pizza Pilgrims. And so if you can give us that journey, and I know we'll spend a bit of time on this because it's a fantastic journey of how you did it. I think it's a great lesson to a lot of people that there isn't a natural automatic path into careers and futures. And so you've got to have a bit of fun on the way. So if you could share that story with us, mate, to kick off, that'd be brilliant.
No, absolutely. Well, yeah, as you say, I'm co-founder of Pizza Pilgrims, which is a sort of small to medium-ish size thing, growing pizza company across the UK. Founded it with my brother in 2012, and I think we both had kind of quote unquote proper jobs straight out of university, and we're kind of fighting the good fight there. And I think we just both realised the sort of combination of like not really enjoying it and not being particularly good at it that we wanted to change. And we'd grown up above pubs, like literally above pubs. So our parents had both been in hospitality, and we kind of had that like veins. I think our parents were equally proud and disappointed when we ended up back in hospitality, but we always had that there. That was no doubt about that. And we kind of got to London, did the proper jobs for a bit, and then we're looking for something that that had a hospitality swing to it, but we didn't have the money to do a pub. We didn't have the experience to get the money to do a pub, and so it was a bit of a kind of lost cause really. And then out of nowhere, early probably sort of 2010 2011ish, the sort of the street food scene exploded into London, and it was suddenly a way where you could create a brand that was built around a real quality product. Things like Twitter and all that stuff were starting to kick off, so you had a way to kind of promote yourself without a budget. And there was just a scene that developed around this kind of new movement of street food. And I think we looked at that and thought, oh God, that's something we could actually do, with a credit card and little else, which was an exciting opportunity. And we looked at it deeper and realised that no one was doing pizza, which we thought was an obvious admission. It turns out that the reason they weren't doing pizza is kind of like a sort of really crap tortoise. You've got to carry a 1-ton pizza oven around with you. Yeah. And doesn't lend itself to popping up all over London that easily.
Not very poppy, as you say, yeah.
No, but yeah, so those kind of things all came together, and we had the idea to start the pizza business in like 2011. We both quit our jobs and kind of went for it. I genuinely thought it was going to be like a summer job for me. I just didn't think it was going to be something big enough for all of us. But yeah, we quickly realised we knew nothing about pizza, so we needed a van to transport said pizza oven about. So we bought a little 3-wheel van in the south of Italy, in Reggio di Calabria, and drove.
I was going to say that's for people's not, that's properly south, isn't it? I've
It's
been
literally
to
like the tip of
Calabria.
the donut
Yeah,
of Italy, like over the water from
yeah,
Sicily. Um, yeah, and we bought it right down there, and then we kind of set off to drive it back and learn about pizza. That was kind of the original pizza pilgrimage. And yeah, we just totally underestimated the speed of that van. I mean, it literally, we're talking top speed of like 15 miles an hour in some places. We couldn't go on motorways. I mean, there were some hills where we were overtaken by joggers. It was, you know, it's a great bit of kit, and bless her, she's still going, but it's not speedy.
I was going to say, because you were quite forward thinking, because I've seen the videos and stuff. You created quite a bit of content, didn't you, of your journey?
Yeah.
Which, as you say, I mean, everybody now would be like looking as if you say, well, of course that's what you do, but it wasn't a thing back in 2012, 2011, was it?
I think the quality of the content was definitely questionable, but yeah, I think we were really keen to document it, and I think I don't think. I genuinely don't think we realised the importance and the power of that kind of brand story at the time. We really genuinely saw it as like a research trip.
Yeah.
And actually what it's become is a bit of a kind of, a sort of a defining thing for the business. I mean, the Ape, we're still called Pizza Pilgrims. The Ape van is still like in our logo. We still talk about that story. And, it is something that I think people gravitate towards a little bit.
And when did the name come? Was that before you set off on the trip, or did you sort of form it where thinking, look, this is what we're doing, we're going to that home?
I really wish I had a snappy answer for this. What I remember, and I found the other day again, is the original kind of thing we wrote up, and we'd called ourselves the Roll and Stone Pizza Company. That was the idea. That was the name that we kind of like launched it with. And I think it's probably good, given, they're probably the most litigious band in rock history.
Yeah.
Avoiding the Rolling Stones and all
probably
of
was. Yeah, you had a vision that you didn't realise.
Yeah, and then I can't remember. I genuinely can't remember, and I wish I could. It could have been my brother. I might give him the credit for it. Just we were talking about, we're going on a pizza pilgrimage, and that's where that started, and then the name just fell from there. And I still think one of the smartest things we ever did, completely inadvertently, is just putting what we do in the name. Like, there's nothing. So many people come to me with like, and there's plenty of room for this too. And like I said, there's never a right way to do anything. But for me, the absolute clarity of like Pizza Pilgrims, this is what we do, it's been a strength for us.
Yeah, and that idea of a homage to the pizza.
Yeah.
Because obviously you were aiming for Napoli, weren't you? Because is that sort of regarded as the birthplace of pizza?
Genuinely, we were so unaware that we weren't even aiming for.
Oh, right, you didn't even know that. Okay.
We got to Napoli and we're like, holy crap, what is this? Like, this is the product we want to kind of try and.
Because that's what you've based your style of pizza in the restaurants on, isn't it?
Yeah, so we do Neapolitan style, exactly. And obviously that's grown hugely since we started out in terms of, its prevalence.
Being a thing, yeah.
Market. But, there's no doubt that it's a very, very special product. And I think we've always tried to sort of honour it ever since. And, whatever way you cut it, whatever pizza, comes and goes, Napoli still have the strongest claim to have invented it. And I think that goes a long way.
That's brilliant. We'll come on to that later because there's a really interesting story of how it left Italy, went to America, then the actual. But anyway, we'll come on to that. So you eventually made it back home about probably a little bit longer than you thought.
I told my work it would be a month because I still had a job at that point, and it ended up being like nearer to 2 months, which didn't go down that well. But got back, and the original kind of business plan was to do like sort of event catering, basically. So go and do kind of private events like, weddings, festivals, funerals, bar mitzvahs, whatever, and maybe complement them with like public events. But I think we quite quickly decided when we got back that actually, if we're going to establish ourselves in any kind of way, you need to have like a regular slot.
Yeah.
A place that people know, at 1 p.m. on this day, you're going to be there. So we quickly kind of changed tack and we're like, how do we kind of find a market stall that we can set up on? And because of this kind of food revolution, I mean, a lot of the markets back then were not food led, and they kind of tended to have like, let's say they had 20 pitches, maybe like 2 or 4 of those pitches would be allocated to like hot food. Yeah. And the rest would be kind of fruit and veg or, produce or bakery or clothing or whatever. And they had very much like allocations against each one. And so we started contacting all the councils and we're just told like all of the markets are full. Like there's no room for more hot food. So I mean, I remember Islington Council were like, don't even bother joining a waiting list because
Yeah.
there's a waiting list with a waiting list. So we kind of, but I guess we kind of in the kind of pure Shawshank, keep writing letters type thing. We just kept writing letters, and we started going down to markets and standing in empty pitches and sending those pitches to the council and be like,
So
keep
like,
telling us it's full, but
can we have this, please?
We're stood in
Yeah.
an empty spot and it's 1 p.m. on a Thursday, can't be full. And eventually, I think the first people to kind of give in were Westminster, and they gave us a spot on Berwick Street Market, which at the time again was like maybe 1 or 2 food stalls.
Yeah.
And the rest was all. I mean, there were probably 5 or 6 fruit and veg guys, and some of them had been there for. I mean, some of them are still there.
Yeah.
And we still kind of go and say hi to them. We're still based in Soho. But yeah, probably at the time there were like 5 or 6 fruit and veg guys. There was a clothing shop. There was a bakery. There was. There was. I think there was at one point there was a fishmonger.
But they were a classic market rather than, like you say, the trendy food markets.
And I think it was we turned up, and I think we were one of the, like I say, very few hot food stalls, and yeah, they nicknamed us the Apprentice because we kind of run around not really knowing what we were doing, and we kind of convinced the local landlord to let us make dough in the pub, and managed to convince my old work to let us park the van under their office in Soho, and it was just like fully cobbled together, and we slowly over the year like just built that kind of infrastructure around that market.
So this is all 2012, is it?
That was 2012. March. We sold the first pizza like March 2012.
Brilliant. And so then, how did you progress to get the sort of chain of 26 restaurants that you've currently got and growing?
At that time, it was very much my brother, and we had a mutual friend called Louis who was helping us, and me. But I had basically decided, not least because we had like revenue of sort of under 100 quid a day, that it was like, and the pitch, of course, I think the pitch cost us something like £10 a day or something crazy. But I was like, look, there's no way this can support all of us, even begin to. So I literally came down. I was working around the corner, and I used to come down for my lunch break and do the kind of lunch rush.
Give them an hour, yeah.
Yeah, and then go back to the office, and they would kind of finish up. And we probably did that for a couple of months, and then slowly, it being Soho and Twitter and, working hard on the product and all that jazz, like it kind of quickly built up a little kind of local following. And then amongst that local following were a lot of people who organise events and organise festivals. And slowly you get your first kind of, would you come and do this event? And would you come and do that event? And I think we started in March, and I think by sort of late May, it was like, okay, well, I think we can fill like a pretty solid summer of this. So why don't I quit my job? We'll do a solid summer, and then I can go back to getting proper job, and then those guys will be on their way type thing. And that was the plan. And we went and did festivals. The first event we ever did was the Cheltenham Jazz Festival, because we had a mutual friend that was doing it, and we could share a van there or something. So that was the first event. But then we did Field Day. We started to do BST. Maybe that was the second year in Hyde Park. And we just took any festival that come our way, basically. And it was a real feast or famine, because you go and do a festival, and if it was sunny and busy and you had your act together, you could take a lot of money. And then the next day it would rain and you didn't have your act together, and you would lose all the money that you made.
You spent a load of money, on stock.
So it was up and down, but we certainly learned a lot, and we kind of really, I think the number one thing for any kind of founder, I suppose, particularly in the early days, but I think just the whole time, is resilience. I think, it's so easy to have a picture in your head of what is going to happen, and I think if you it's that classic Mike Tyson quote about everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, like that's basically what it's like founding a business. And you get there, and the electricity's gone down, and the fridge is broken, and the oven's not working, and 3 of the people you needed to turn up don't turn up, and it's like dealing with that and just getting through that and adjusting the plan to deal with that is kind of, I think, such a huge part of like success or failure in the first year.
Yeah. It makes you learn very quickly as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So where was the first restaurant that you opened then, in terms of what we would recognise?
So, we did the van for 18 months, but I think we went through the first winter and we were like, holy shit, we're never doing winter again. That was commercially and like just, from a lifestyle, was not fun. So, we got through the first winter on that market, traded in snow and God knows what else. And then I think, we got to kind of springtime, having done it for a year, and we were like, look, there's just no way that we can kind of continue to do that over the winters, not on its own anyway, because it's just not viable. Like, we just couldn't support the people, and, trade just dropped right off. So that was the point, I think, when we first realized that maybe a pizzeria, I mean, genuinely up to that point, there had been no plan for a pizzeria. This was very much an event business. So then, we kind of had formed the idea for a pizzeria. We still had, nowhere near enough money to do a pizzeria. So we kind of quickly took the opinion that we would kind of take some kind of investment to do that. And then, you kind of just started, like, I guess, going out there and trying to meet as many people as you could. And actually it was someone who we kind of vaguely had known from many years before, who had run his own hospitality business and sold it. And, we went to see him probably like end of that year, November 2012 or something like that, and said, is this a thing? And he was like, no, it's not a thing. Pizza's too saturated. Don't think it's kind of differentiated enough. And then we probably went for another 3-4 months and built our name a little more. And we had a book coming out and all this crazy stuff going on around the pilgrimage. And I think at that point he was like, okay, maybe there is something here. And he kind of helped us assemble a band of brothers and sisters to kind of all put a little bit of money in. I think there was like 15 or 20 people who all put.
Okay, so it's like an angel investment, as they'd call it.
Yeah, exactly. And we kind of cobbled together enough money to open the first pizzeria, which fittingly was in Soho. And is
that still going now?
It certainly is. It certainly is. It's going strong. In fact, it's about to be completely refurbed because it's obviously pretty old now. It's coming up to 12 years old.
Wow. It's the baby. So I've had a look and seen the book. Talk a bit about the book, because I think it's interesting what you seem to build in there was the essence of the brand, isn't it? In terms of what does Pizza Pilgrims mean?
Yeah, I think it's been weirdly in some kind of, if you sort of asked me this 20 years ago and said you do multiple books, I'd be like, literally, what are you talking about? We did a book in May 2013, literally off the back of the pilgrimage, because the pilgrimage got a little bit of media traction, not a lot, but we actually did make a TV show which showed on the Food Network, 6-part TV show. I mean, no one watched it, like, genuinely. And it kind of always pops up in weird places, like it's big in Nigeria, and it kind of pops up on KLM Airways.
Maybe that's where you should open your next restaurant then.
I mean, 100%. We've had people come and do food courses from Nigeria to be like, we love you guys. It was actually quite big in Italy. It was on National Geographic, which is quite a big channel in Italy. So it kind of had weird things. But in the UK, it certainly got no traction. But off the back of the TV show being commissioned, we then got a book commissioned, and we did a book in May 2013, which is a lovely book, but I think it doesn't encapsulate what we're about as a brand. It's very like lifestyle, like Jamie Oliver. It's lots of kind of, it's a bit twee, and I think doesn't have the kind of quite sort of pop culture-iness to it. I don't know. For whatever reason, no, not a bad word to say about the people who helped us make it and the opportunity it presented. But looking back on it, it wasn't us. We were led by them. So we always kind of that book went out and I think didn't really kind of go anywhere. And we were always a bit like, shame that opportunity that we had, we didn't quite get it right. But we always said, that book had been about Italian food in general, which again, we have absolutely no right to talk about.
Because didn't the publishers make you go wider away from pizza?
They kept going like, pizza's not enough for a book. You need to go wider. So we ended up with the book ended up being subtitled Recipes from the Back Streets of Italy, and it encompassed a whole broad range of Italian food, which just in many times we were just not, it just didn't feel right that we were talking about it. Anyway, that book happened, and for years we were like, it'd be such a shame. It'd be great if we could do a book that really did talk to what we're about. And we kind of kept banging on doors and being told pizza's not enough. And then eventually in about 2018, Quadrille were like, I get it. I think there's enough in pizza for a book. And that's when Pizza, the book I think you're referring to, came out. Late 2020. So in the middle of lockdown, that book came out. And
do you have to think long about the title?
Yeah, I know. It's just like, really? Is that the best we can do? And so, we did that book, and it felt like a much better expression of what we're about. It was kind of a bit silly, but obviously obsessive about pizza, and kind of covered pizza as a broader church, and everything from like talking to ops director of Domino's to the CEO of Pizza Hut to the more artisan pizza chefs. To it was an amazing project to be part of, and I think we're really, really proud of that book, and it actually did sell well eventually. So we are really excited actually to be bringing out in a month's time a new book called Pizza Napoli, which is all about Napoli, the city of Napoli, and the pizza of the city of Napoli, which is definitely the thing we know most about of all. So
for reference, that'll be in September, is it?
That comes out in September,
in case it's later.
Been a real labour of love, and we're really excited about it. because we have, over the years, we go back to Napoli a lot, like 3-4 times a year at least. My brother was there this week, actually. And we, for whatever reason, I think when we first arrived in Napoli and said, hey, we want to start a pizza business, I think the kind of city and the producers of Napoli were a bit like, no one's ever said that to us before. Yeah. And now I think they get it once a week of like someone saying, I want to start a Neapolitan pizza business. But as a result, we got to know, Antimo Caputo, who runs the biggest mill in the center of Napoli, like all flour starts with him. We know the guys that run the mozzarella factory where we get all our, the mozzarella kind of caseificio where we get our mozzarella from. We know the guys that grow the tomatoes. We actually know these guys, and we know the chefs. And we kind of, when we go over there, we can kind of we hang out with all those guys, and they're like friends now. So we do have this kind of insane connection to the city. The example that blows my mind every time is when we first went. The first pizza we ever had in Napoli was in Damicali, which is like one of the kind of churches to pizza. Right. They only serve margherita and marinara. It was famously the place that Julia Roberts went and had her Eat, Play, Love. I don't know if you've seen Eat, Pray, Love, but pizza, and that was kind of like, that was in Damicali, and it's one of the really revered pizza places in Naples. So we were like, we had our first pizza there.
And did you just happen upon it, or did you?
No, it is really famous, and it was like one place you need to go and queue for an hour. And we went and did it, and we actually had the film crew with us, so we kind of got some access there. But it was very much like we turned up completely green. And then in 2023, we did a new pilgrimage to celebrate our 10th birthday, and we built a Vespa with a sidecar that converted to a pizza oven, and that's the reason for the book Pizza Napoli. But we went and we hosted the kind of wrap party for that trip in Damicali. They gave us they let us put our name above the door next to theirs, and we partied with like the owner of the company, and we got in the kitchen and made pizza with them, and it was just this weird like full circle moment of like, God, we really have like made friends in this city. And that was a really cool moment.
That's wonderful, isn't it? Because a lot of that provenance of the food comes over, and if everyone's not eating at one of your restaurants, you go to great lengths to explain what's involved and why, and how the pizzas are created and made up, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we always used to say we take nothing serious but the pizza. I think that's not quite true now, because our MD would say we take a lot of things more seriously, like health and safety for one. Yeah. But yeah, no, we have always obsessed about the pizza, and we've always wanted to really honour the Neapolitan thing and be very clear where that comes from, whilst also kind of occasionally bringing a London spin or a bit of a kind of, and I think we've seen, not in any way connected to us, obviously, but when we first went to Napoli, it was very regimented, and they're like, this is how pizza is made. It's been made like this for hundreds of years. You do not deviate. Like, this is pizza, and like, don't mess with it. And I think what we've seen Napoli do in the last sort of 10, 15 years is slightly open their eyes to like a bit more experimentation. They kind of do, they do try more stuff. And I think as a result, like, it's just had an explosion of creativity in the city. And I guess we've always wanted to have a bit of that, stick to the tradition, make sure the ingredients and the methodology and all that stuff is hugely respected and brilliant, whilst also, making sure that we kind of bring new ideas to the party as well.
But that's what, and how do you basically allow people to identify with your product? That's the key, isn't it? That you've got that heritage built in within it, and there's no doubt that both you and James are very, very passionate about pizza and that excitement. But it shouldn't, maybe explain as well how you kit out the restaurants, because you'll sort of sometimes you'll nearly zone them into the different areas or the different products.
Yeah, and have I think we really try and have fun. I mean, I can't say that James is the driver of that and the creativity there, and we now partner with fantastic designers who help us bring the ideas to life. But each pizzeria is started with a blank piece of paper. What can you do that's fun? And that manifests itself in many different ways. We've done, some of the most recent ones. We've done kind of a beach themed one with like Amalfi vibes and like umbrellas on the ceiling. We almost put like sand on the ceiling. We were going to do like an upside down beach, but then we realised that was going to end up all on the pizza. So we've done that. In Brighton we had a spare room downstairs, so we fitted out the whole room as a five-a-side football pitch. So it's like a caged five-a-side football pitch you can rent for parties. We're talking about doing a paddle pilgrims and do like a room with like have paddle there and stuff. We've done ones that follow as you say, follow the kind of pilgrimage and have different zones for different areas of Italy. Yeah, it's about kind of finding that kind of tongue-in-cheekness of like, wanting it to feel like someone's really thought about it. You want each one to feel like a pilgrim's, but you want it to also feel unique. And I think that tied to the city. In Cardiff, we've got a boat in the pizzeria, and you can sit and have. It just, you want to make it fun without being kind of too pastiche-y. And I think that's in a market which is very crowded, pizza. I think you've got to find ways to stand out. And you mentioned earlier like the flamingo in Leeds.
I was about to say, how come a flamingo in Leeds then?
A flamingo in Leeds. Where did I think that was literally, but that's the thing. It's like my brother was literally driving up to Leeds, and I think he stopped in Warwick, and they had flamingos there, and he's like on like pedalos, and he was like, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool to do like a pedalo that powered an ice cream machine?" And that's what we did. And candidly, it's come out now because it took up way too much space and it never really quite worked. But I think the desire to have fun with it is still there, and I think we want to kind of protect that to the end, really.
But it is, isn't it? Because eating out is back in fashion again now. But it is also understanding that eating out is there's some theatre to it. It's an event. It's not just go in, get your 2 courses and clear off.
No.
You want to feel like someone's making an effort to
completely
if they get your pound notes, and I think it's crucial, isn't it? And
I think,
like you say, there's loads of pizza places in Leeds, but there's only a couple that you would bother going to.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots and lots of good pizza, and I think our kind of company mantra is like making people happier one pizza at a time. That's our kind of like goal for everyone in the company. And I think what we always say is like there are many ways to achieve that goal with a customer. It could be a song that they love. It could be, an interaction with a waiter or a waitress or a barman or a chef. It could be something on the walls. Hopefully, the pizza is a big part of it. But there's lots of opportunity there to make someone smile. And I think, we've always tried to kind of like, I guess, turn all of those up to 11 and hopefully they all land. But even if just 1 or 2 of them land, that's your company.
I'm going to say, if you back yourself with a few options in one land, that's better than what most people will do in their entire career, isn't it? So it seems to be between you and James a real innovative drive, obviously from the concept of how do you go and research it, because you did the pizza in the box was that in lockdown that got?
Yeah, we did in lockdown, and I think we I would say mine and James's strength and weakness is that we're kind of like constantly looking for what's next, and so I think for many years actually, and certainly if you look at the first 5 or 6 Pizza Pilgrims, they're like kind of almost comically different in their size, and they're like, we did one that was within the first 5. We did one that was 1,000 square foot and 6,000 square foot, and we did like just all this. It was like a kind of relentless thing of like new ideas. We never let anything bed in. It was just like, oh, well, we said that, so we'll never say that again. We'll say, And the truth is, you've got to kind of figure out what you actually are about, what you actually stand for, and then you've got to say it a lot. You've got to say it more than you kind of feel.
Because you might get bored of it, but it's like the customer hasn't.
You've got to keep saying it and never, ever, ever stop. And I think we were very, very lucky very early on. Sophie, who's our FD, and we recruited her for a day a week on Twitter. When we first opened the pizzeria, we put out a tweet saying we need someone to come and help us with bookkeeping 1 day a week. And she answered, and she'd just come out of some kind of big finance job, but had her first child and wanted to sort of slightly ease herself back into the workplace. And she's now, she's been with us the whole way and is now our financial director and an absolute core part of the business. And Gavin, similarly, in sort of 2017, we opened in Oxford, and it was challenging. It was a new thing for us. First one outside of the UK first one outside of London, I mean. Mm-hmm. And, we suddenly found ourselves massively overstretched. And I think we were very aware of our kind of shortfall, our shortcomings in terms of knowledge of how to run a hospitality business, and so we set on a search to find like the person to help us run the business. And Gavin, after interviewing I think 39 people, Gavin was the person that we went for, and we've never looked back. Between him and Sophie, they really brought like a stability, a kind of know-how. So the 4 of us together alongside the management team, we've been very.
Share a bit about how, especially in the early days, how did you and James land on roles that you had to be done? Were you quite disciplined to say, right, I'll look after this, you look after that? Because
Yeah,
obviously you had an advertising background from your early career, didn't you? What was James when he
yeah.
before he?
Although my advertising background, in a big agency, when you're a junior, like your kind of advertising experience, your like kind of marketing experience, it's basically you're a glorified project manager.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
all you do is kind of make sure that all the bits are moving in the right direction. So, to say I brought a lot of kind of marketing experience, I think would be not quite right. I think, yeah, we've been very lucky in that obviously we're brothers, so there's kind of an inherent trust there. I mean, the amount of times that people are like, I could not work with my sibling, no way. But actually, like we work really, really well together. We're very complimentary of each other. We've never really had a falling out of no in all this time. And I think when I say complementary, I mean like our skills are complementary. So,
Yeah.
I'm quite sort of analytical. I like a spreadsheet and I like a kind of, go through kind of orderly stuff. And I think James is the one that comes up with the ideas. Not only did he come up with the idea of Pizza Pilgrims, but the kind of the creativity in the brand, both the food and the fit outs and the kind of communication style, I think is very much led by James. And I think I'm just there to kind of help facilitate that and make sure it lands how it should.
But that's vital in the partnership, isn't it? That you both fall into roles that you realise you've got equal superpowers, not the same, but then if they are, then you're just going to clash, aren't you? The fact that you can take one path.
Yeah, it's such an amazing thing. I mean, the team dynamic, and I talk about us four. Um, I think if you took any one of us away, it would work like significantly less well. Because I think we all just, for whatever reason, luck, judgment, working together, time, whatever it is, it works so well. And I think, I only make this analogy because there are four of us. But I don't know if you've seen the sort of 8-hour Beatles documentary.
Yeah.
That I went into being like, even I mean, I love a bit of like rock documentary, but even I think 8 hours might be too long, and I was just in raptures through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
what was so fascinating about that foursome, and again, I'm not making the.
Was that the one where they had all the recordings of the rehearsals?
Yeah, the rehearsal. Yeah. It was. They'd taken hundreds of hours, but it was still.
I'm the same as you. I was like, I'll watch a bit. I think I was doing some ironing, obviously, because I'm a modern man, and I was like, it's 1:00 in the morning. What am I doing?
Got so hooked. But little thumbs up. But yeah, like I said, only make the analogy because we're four and they're four. But what's so fascinating is so easy to be like, okay, well, it was all Paul and John, and the other two didn't really bring much. And like, Ringo particularly, who everyone just goes, oh no. Like if Ringo hadn't been there, they would have lasted like a year. They'd have all fallen out. And like the whole thing, every single person in that band not only delivered creatively, but made that thing stronger. And like that is such a rare thing. And I, like I say, not equating our success with theirs, but I feel the same about our team. Like
that'll be the name of the program. We're just like the Beatles.
Just like that's probably it. But I thought that was very fascinating, and I think we've been lucky, very lucky, to get the team that we have, and there are many, many more people to it than us four. Let's be clear, but
of course, I'm going to say, especially because that was going to be one of my questions actually. Because as you like you say, if you've got a nice tight hotbed, I know London's a massive city, but it's still London, isn't it? And you could get to any of them within half an hour, say.
Yeah.
As you've grown and your footprint geographically has gone over the UK, how have you found that? Have your roles changed, or have you managed, or is it more that you've tried to drop great people into each of that from a geographical point of view?
It's a real balance, and I think we've really tried to do it at the right pace. I think restaurants are hard and moving fast. What you need to do really is like almost like sort of seeds, I guess. You need to kind of chip a little bit off the main block and plant it in Cardiff, and make sure that it's like grown from the same stuff. And if you're doing that at a rate of like 10 a year or whatever. Well, obviously, the smaller you are, the fewer you can really sustain with that seed analogy. But you've got to do that. You've got to like go in. You've got to give it all the love. Me and James will turn up. We'll talk to all the new team members. If we're hiring a manager locally, which is one route we take, then that person will come and work in the other businesses for like at least 3 months.
3 months? Yeah. Wow, that's brilliant.
Really, come and spend time in the academy in Camden. Meet the senior team, ask questions, like let it kind of wash over you. And the other option is that we send one of our great managers or head chefs or senior leaders out to that city to bring that kind of Pilgrims energy. And I think that as you grow, that gets a bit easier because you've got kind of more great people to kind of spread the love with.
Yeah, you've got a bit of scale.
But if you got if you have 10 restaurants and you go right, we're going to open to 20 in a year. Like obviously, if you put the finances aside, which is stretching, the reason it will go wrong is that you can't get the people in and get them to understand what you're about and get them to be brand kind of guardians that quickly. You just can't do it.
No,
unless you've got. I don't even care if you've got unlimited resource. I just don't think you can do it. I think if you've got 30 restaurants and you want to go to 35, even though that's a big leap and still very, very tricky and requires a lot of attention, it is easier because you're not because in the first version of the world, if you go from 10 to 20, you could make the new 10 work brilliantly because you'll give all of your great people to the 10, but you can be damn sure that the will have gone backwards. And so you've just, we've always been very, very clear, and we've always wanted to do it at the right pace. And I think in some ways I look back and go, it's head spinningly fast, but so many of our peers have gone a lot faster. And I think we always want to kind of maintain that we're getting better first, bigger second.
Yeah, I think it is. Well, I think you get bigger because you're better. I don't know, sounds a really cheap analogy to it, but it is, isn't it? Because then people buy into it.
And you've got no excuse to get bigger, I think.
Yeah.
And so, I think we've really tried to get that right. We've certainly not got it right every time. Absolutely not. Never would suggest we have. But no, we've been very, very lucky. And going out of London is a huge step. And, making sure you've got the right people to help you do it correctly and the right resource. And this is really important.
Yeah. Because we spoke before we came on air, each city is very unique outside of London, isn't it? And you've got to get your head into where are the hot spots, why should we be there? Well, you might look on the map and go, that's perfect, it's just near there, it's going to be great. And everybody goes, oh no, you don't ever go out there. And you need that insight, don't you?
You've got to get into that city, you've got to spend time there, you've got to spend time there in the day, you've got to spend time there in the evening, you've got to talk to people who trade there, talk to people who live there. Sometimes it's taken us years when we've gone, right, this is a city we want to open in. More often than not, it's taken us years to find the right site.
Yeah, but then back to your point earlier, that's why it works, because then you've got you can't guarantee anything, but as long as you can put as many of the odds on your side as possible, then with the energy on top of that, you'll win, won't you?
Well, I hope so. We certainly seem to have somehow managed to win more than we lose, but you also make mistakes, and restaurant business is hard because. That location piece is so crucial. You can be the best restaurant business in the world, but if you're tucked down the wrong bit, no one's ever going to find you.
And if you see the change, obviously you went, loads of fun, you went through COVID and got through COVID and survived, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you see the change in sort of eating habits and visiting habits post-COVID?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly has been. It's been, obviously it's been a complete roller coaster. There was just such a weird area of feast and famine. Obviously when we were in full lockdown, it was absolutely brutal. But we came up with this pizza in the post thing. I think, we went to lockdown sort of late March, and I think by early April we had the first boxes out, and it was a phenomenon. And by February 21, we were doing basically the same amount of revenue on those boxes as we were doing in the restaurant before.
And you're thinking, why do I never need to do this again?
Honestly, there were moments where we were like, well, maybe we've totally got the wrong business here. Maybe we should be doing boxes and not pizzerias. But the truth is that very, as quickly as it grew, it sort of dissipated. As soon as people would get out of the house, they were like, no, I'll go out for a pizza, thanks.
I'm not cooking that, pal.
Yeah, exactly. But then, then the whole kind of makeup of the week changed. Obviously, fewer and fewer people there in the week. Things like Thursday becoming bigger than Friday, that kind of stuff happened. You see Sundays grow weirdly because fewer people are in the office on Mondays. So actually a cheeky Sunday.
They can have a few, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if I'm a bit hazy on Monday morning because, that kind of stuff all happened. Saturdays became much bigger because everyone was like, right, that's the day I go into town and I do a full day.
I'm doing a lot, yeah.
So there was that era. And then I think, slowly but surely, people are in the office more. And it is kind of slowly reverting. Obviously, Mondays are still a day for work from home and probably Fridays too. But I do think it will ebb slowly back to, 4 days in the office. And so,
I think you're right. I think it will. And but I think people they're happy from, we employ about 85 people in this office in Leeds, and you can start to see how often they're in now. They're in 3 days a week, definitely. But even like today, I've come in on Friday, and there's 5 or 6 people in the agency just out of choice because they're probably about to go out and have a few beers.
Yeah, completely.
Which is absolutely fine. And it's just everybody's going, yeah.
Yeah,
because
no,
it's just nice. It's nice to
well,
delight
people want the
and
interaction, and I think
yeah,
that working from home has its benefits, but yeah, particularly in hospitality, 95% of our teams cannot work from home. It's not an option.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
you've got to you've got to try and show solidarity. Obviously, I'm working from home right now, but you've got,
yeah,
I go into town 4 days a week.
yeah.
I live in Brighton, and yeah, I get the train 4 days a week and try and get out there and see people. And, that's an important part of running restaurants is the people.
Well, yeah. As soon as they don't feel you're about, your impact on the brand goes, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think it is.
that's right. And I think, it's, but it's hard because, candidly, how often do I get to Pizza Pilgrims Cambridge? Nowhere near enough as not enough as I want. And that's where you've got to put the trust in your wider teams to to know that they are kind of bought into what you're trying to do, and that's where it's been so powerful to work on our purpose stuff, which I think can be. I fear for some businesses can be a kind of cool where we've kind of paid some expensive consultant. We've come up with a snappy line. Jobs are good, and we now put it in a drawer, and we can consult on it when we need to. And I think we've really, really tried. Whether we've succeeded, I don't know, but we've really tried to make that front and center to all of our decision making, to empower the teams at all levels. To if you're faced with a decision, making people happy one piece at a time should be at the forefront of which way should I go with this, and if you can deliver against that one way more than the other, then go that way. And that will not set you wrong. And I think we've really, really fought to do that. And actually, in our latest company survey, our happiness survey, not only did we have, I think we had 70% of people answered it, which is pretty good.
That they're even bothered to answer it.
Well, yeah, that's a good start. Yeah. And then 80+% are happy or very happy at work. But the one that absolutely knocked me for six was 95% of people said they believed in the purpose of the company. And
wow,
that to me is the bit that is magic, because if you can get people to go, I see what you're trying to do and I buy into it and I want to do my part, that's where you can create something really special.
But the way you phrase it there is so crucial, that people talk a lot about a brand and the proposition. Yeah, some people think it's just a logo. It's not. Obviously, that proposition that undermines. It does start to it basically decides how you make decisions everywhere across the business, and it means you don't have to go to Cambridge because they know that driver of how they should. Yeah, you need to get everywhere eventually, but it allows them to always have a framework to make a decision that would be what you or James would make.
It's so good, and I think if you can impart that through a combination of being clear what it means and trusting them to make the decisions in the first place, then I think you can go a long way. And I think, but yeah, it informs everything. Just this week, it's sort of been going a couple of weeks now, but we made it. We've been looking to do a charity partner and figure out. So we're now doing a thing called Dip to Donate, where we sell these crust dippers. For every crust dipper we sell, we donate 5p to charity, which doesn't sound like a lot, but actually adds up to a lot over a whole year across however many sites. And we're trying to find a partner to do it with, and had the purpose at the front of our minds. And anyway, we've ended up with, after kind of much deliberation, Make-A-Wish Foundation, who do kind of days out.
Wonderful. Yeah,
and it's such a great fit because it absolutely delivers against our purpose. We are going to be able to fund 50 wishes a year for kids who don't necessarily have these opportunities, who are facing tough times in their life, and that is what we're here to do. And it not only ties into what we're trying to do, but it augments it for the team. It brings it to life, and
but then the team get behind it too, don't they? So that you're probably going to sell more dippers because of that.
And that is what's happened. We put it on the menu 6 weeks ago that we're doing Dip to Donate, and we kind of was on there. And we had just about finalised the partnership, but we hadn't actually managed to put it onto the menu yet. But Tour of Everything is just no, we've run out of time. But yeah, our dipper sales have dramatically increased because it's got more space in the menu, but it's also got a purpose. And yeah, and those kind of moments are really lovely because they feel like they really are purpose driven, and that's nice.
Yeah, and if you can order an extra side just on charity and say it's not for me, I don't really want this.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. So yeah, but no, it's good stuff, and I think we're really pleased that we kind of invested the time to do it right.
Let's spend a minute or so because it's important. You guys this year have got your B Corp status.
Yeah,
which
is
I had to
something go last year, but yeah.
Oh, was it last year?
Yeah.
Sorry.
February last year.
But I was reading the impact report, which is quite a document.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of stuff. Yeah,
Brilliant though.
No, it's great. I really enjoyed that. That was one of the things, certainly post-COVID, the things I was most proud of, because it was a huge thing to achieve. We were one of the first hospitality brands, one of like 2 or 3 or 4 who had it at the time. And I think there are a few more now, but not many, like under 10, I would say. And
it's very difficult when you've got, especially when you've got a geographical footprint like you have from a logistics point of view.
Hundreds of people, like, you've got to really work at it. And it took us 18 months, and it took us 18 months of like every department knowing what their bit to do was and working hard to deliver it and coming together to deliver it. And I think it was probably the biggest thing we delivered as a sort of cross-function team ever. So it was a really nice thing. And I think, you can say what you want about B Corp and where you stand on it, and does it, should Evian have it, and all these kind of things that people throw at it. But from my point of view, it has given us a real framework to work at, to be better in a lot of places. And, whether that's community focus or environment or our employees, or it's given like, here is what good looks like. How much of that can you deliver? And I think that's been great for us. And we qualified with 81.3. We needed 80. So it wasn't exactly we weren't miles past the number, but we're kind of striving every year to go up. So we're now at like just short of 90 points.
I was about to say, talking to people who've done this, and I've had quite a few guests on the podcast that have done it, and to get that score though straight away is quite impressive, because like you say, then you understand how the framework works.
Yeah,
and I agree, people can be quite sniffy about it, but my view is yours. It's like, if a business takes a social responsibility and does the principles that's behind B Corp, whether you agree with the name or whether you think people, doesn't matter. You have made a better world because of that.
I hope so. In a small way, in a small way. It's really helped us all align to what is better and how do we get there. Yeah. Like, to the point about going from 81 to 90 points, like, some of the things have taken us 3 years to deliver. Like, and it's nice to have that, like, stuff in the future to go like, oh no, we're still working on that. We're getting there. It's not easy, but we're getting...
But when that lands, that's going to improve your score and make you prouder.
It's good, yeah.
So looking ahead, because as usual, I knew we'd have this. We start to run out of time. How's the future looking? You said earlier trading's been good.
Yeah, trading has been hard. I wouldn't say that, it's been a tough year, but I think we have relentlessly stuck to focus on the product, make sure the product's great, focus on the team, make sure working here is good, focus on the customer. We haven't done anything dramatic. We've not gone out and slashed prices or cut, our produce or done anything like that. It's like, we believe in what we do. Let's stick to our knitting. And there's been a few tough trading periods, but it feels like it's really coming back now and it's starting to pay off. And I think, making sure that you just deliver a great experience for your team and your customer every time. I know it's a bit sort of obvious and trite, but that's the long term view of the company, is like, make 10-year decisions and stick to them. So that's what we're doing.
I think that's what gives people confidence in the brand though, doesn't it, Tom? Because it's like, if you maybe don't visit one of your restaurants for a year and you go in and it's quite a different experience, you're going to go, oh, you want to go back in. I take a mate and go, oh, this place was great. Obviously now I'm gutted there's no flamingo in Leeds, which will be a bit shaky. No, but what I mean is, that's part of why a brand works, is that you get that fantastic experience consistently. So you feel special every time you go in. And
back to my earlier point, like, consistency is such a sort of, it's not a word that either me or James are like, oh, do you know what I really strive is something consistent.
I love being consistent.
But it's so crucial that it is consistent in its own special way. And it's a really tough one, because, I love the idea of everyone, like, going off and doing their own thing. And we really try and empower the teams to bring their own. I guess there's consistent at a kind of like conceptual level, and then like how you deliver all that stuff. And I would hope that each team is given the room to kind of deliver their version of what Pizza Pilgrims is about. But as a consumer, you still get fantastic pizza, you still get warm service, you still have a fun environment, just maybe in a slightly unique way. But that consistency is so crucial for building anything.
But like go back to your geographical footprint. It's delivered differently in Leeds and in Manchester and in Cambridge and in London, because the clientele's different and they expect different things. But having it delivered under the framework, and like you say, where the worst case is they get an amazing product in the food and in the drink and in the service, then that's what wins, isn't it?
That's the most important thing. And I think keeping at that is really important. Really important.
So is the plan to continue to open more restaurants? Or is it, what's, if you could get your crystal ball out?
Yeah, as I said before, we want to be better, not bigger. So we're about to open in Manchester, which is exciting. We've got our biggest ever masterclass kitchen, which is a kind of new thing we started this year. So we've got a dedicated space upstairs where you'll be able to come and do pizza classes, either in groups or we'll sell individual tickets for nights and stuff. That's been a huge success in Canary Wharf, so that's good. And yeah, I think I'm up there next week looking at the site, but cool, that's not good. But yeah, so that's really exciting. And then we have our book coming out, as I said. Pizza Napoli comes out in September, which is cool. And then we're looking at Birmingham and King's Cross. But it's we're not in a rush, but we are. There's opportunity coming. It's in some ways. It's such a difficult time for the industry, and in some ways, that is really, really tough to take. And we kind of, we want to make sure that we don't overstretch ourselves, because there's no doubt that, customers are harder to come by and harder to please than they ever have been. And I think we just need to keep doing that well. But, King's Cross is a great example. I literally sent the first email on King's Cross to the landlord of King's Cross in 2019. It's just like, it is bonkers how long some of this stuff takes. And I think, but it feels so gratifying to be like, we identified that as a good site, still think it's a good site 6 years later, and slowly but surely we've edged closer, and now we're there. So I think if I felt that we were kind of like rocking up going, cool, we've got to do 6 this year, like
like knee-jerk reaction every time.
It's just
it's not good.
King's Cross has been around for a long time, and suddenly it's upon us, and we should do it. So
Brilliant. I love it. Right, final question, which is
this is gonna be
always a nice one. No, it's a nice one, Tom. Don't be like that. You and James are about to go off on this journey. What piece of advice would you love to give yourselves, the dynamic duo about to take on Italy, that you've learned through that would think that might have just saved me a little bit of pain on the way?
I think the biggest things for us, I say to everyone, is some of it's stuff that we actually have, but one is like, do it with someone else. Like, no matter what motivates you to do your own business, like doing it on your own can be incredibly lonely, and like the tough times are so much tougher, and the good times are so much less good if you're not doing it with someone who you're like in with. So even if it's your idea and you feel like you're letting someone in something late in the day, as long as you find that right partner, giving them a chunk of it and doing it together, ideally 50-50, that's the dream. I just think as a 1 + 1 = 3, you achieve so much more. So I really, really believe in that. I think, as I said earlier, like, be ready to change your plan. Your amazing idea that you've had in your bedroom that is completely flawless, like, once it hits the world, be ready to go, okay, well, we were sort of 90% there, but we need to change this, this, and this. I think that, that's really helped us. Again, for other businesses, it's like, no, the world's not ready. Keep going. If you're Mark Zuckerberg, I suspect, you probably did keep your vision quite singular. But for us, it was like, adapt and learn and adapt again. I think that's really important. I think the third team is just like, as soon as you can, hire the best people you can. Like the most people, and the best people are the most expensive. It's not about but
they are for a reason. Aren't they?
They're for a reason, and they will make you so much better. And like, trust them. Don't hire them and then tell them everything they have to do, and they ask you every question, everything they're going to do. They have to come and check with you. That's not trust. That's just nonsense. You've got to give them space to be brilliant at what they do.
And I'm sure we're both smiling because we've both done that, haven't we? Where you think that's helpful, and you realise no, they've got that. They bring a skill that you haven't got, that you and James don't have.
That's why you have them, and I think you've got to. I think I've definitely been guilty of it, but I think so many founders just go, cool. Well, that no one knows more about this business than me, and therefore I should have the final word on everything in this business. And it's like, no, that's not what it's about. It's about kind of imparting that kind of core thought, but letting someone who's better than you at stuff and whose eyes light up over creating a system or a process or a way to do something in a more systematic way, let those people go and do that.
Leave them to it.
Because they will do a better job than you, and they will engage people in a better way than you, and they will, maybe not better but different. And like it takes all the whole lot to make it work well, for sure.
Right. That sounds like some incredible advice to end on. So, Tom, you've dropped the mic. Thank you very much, mate. I've really enjoyed that.
No worries.
Good luck. and good luck with Manchester next month.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you for having me.